Destiny is a franchise that has had a lot of different exotics dominate the game. There's been eras we've covered like Gjallarhorn, Outbreak Prime and Perfected, even armor exotics that have had their moments. But one that has been kept silent for a little bit now has been one that ruled them all. One specific weapon that took any sense of hope a player could have, ripped that out, and have them farming Reddit gold complaining about it. A weapon so strong that charity incentives were made to get it nerfed. A weapon that even had its very own emblem for its time of pure dominance. Nowadays, a player would be justified in being frustrated by stasis.
Are you kidding me? I go through all that and this fucking nerd. This fucking nerd with his little ice ability freezes me.
But back then, one would be praised for sharing their story of how this weapon ruined their day. So without further ado, let's meet the weapon that ruled Destiny, the Lord of Wolves. Whoa, it's me. The guy that has something to tell you about the glasses he's currently wearing. These are called blue light filter glasses, and they're from a company called GMG Performance. Listen, these glasses have been a lifesaver for me since I write, edit, stream, and just play games all day and all night. I used to have itchy and dry eyes, bad eye strain, and I would get headaches from not wearing any type of protection for my eyes. All that overexposure to blue light from our monitors just isn't good for our eyes, especially if you spend as much time as I do on my computer. If you're like me and you do spend this much time in front of your computer, you're really going to want to listen to what I have to say. GMG Performance has not only a good solution to eye strain with their glasses, but they're stylish, they're comfortable, and there's none of that yellow tint. Here, just have a look. There's no yellow, see? None. I wear these almost every single day and I feel better in front of my monitor as a result. The good news for you watching, and especially you Chads that have stuck this long into the read, is that GMG Performance has a very special discount for you. 40% off a pair of glasses using the link in the description down below. 40%. Yeah, that's not kind of insane. That's really insane. So make sure you don't miss your chance. Click the link in the description. It'll only be up for 48 hours. Do not miss your chance. So make sure to click the link, grab a pair, and enjoy the rest of the video. Some footage in this video is from players around the community. Their links will be in the description of this video, as well as the music too. Before the Lord of Wolves was a dominant force, it was basically a gimmick. In Destiny 1, the Lord of Wolves released alongside the trio of the Fallen themed exotic weapons. There was the Lord of Wolves, the Queenbreaker's Bow, and the Dreg's Promise. These three weapons were odd to drop in year one, with the Lord of Wolves and the Dreg's Promise only being able to be acquired through Elder's Cipher bounties, which were bounties that players had to complete after obtaining them through the Elder's Cipher weapon bounty at the end of the Prison of Elders run. That's a mouthful, but basically, the Lord of Wolves was not a great weapon in Destiny 1 outside of one core purpose. It had a lot of ammo and didn't take a long time to reload. I mean, if you need proof that the weapon wasn't very powerful in this game, look no further than its exotic perk, Devil's Touch, which worked by having kills with this weapon grant nearby allies +3 recovery. Hey, at least it lasted 30 seconds. I think the idea behind this one was to fit the theme of the exotic weapons surrounding it, and the Lord of Wolves being a burst shotty meant that it could take someone out in Crucible very quickly if in the right situation. It just wasn't all that interesting though. I wish I had something more here, like a crazy story or something, but just like all the average exotics that you guys want me to cover for some reason, I just don't have anything to say. It was just a peasant of Destiny exotics. So I guess we just transition. Forsaken brought many things to Destiny 2, some of which we have covered in other videos, and many of which we still have to cover for other videos. But we're not talking about those videos, we're talking about this video. Forsaken brought a fallen character to the world of Destiny. This Jabba the Hutt character, or crew from Jak 2 if you're a real gamer, named the Spider, had two main purposes to him before he captured a crow. The Spider was there for taking up your time on pointless public events to slow down the progression of the Forsaken narrative, and he had every Destiny player's favorite portion of the game: bounties. Speaking of bounties, if you haven't tried the Twitch bounty for Destiny 2, make sure you check it out for a shader and emblem. Come by Twitch streams, EvanF1997, get your emblems, get your shaders, thank you. These bounties weren't your typical kill enemies bounties, but instead were called wanted bounties for killing bosses in the new lost sectors, random spawn locations around the universe, and more. So I guess they were just kill enemies bounties, but way more engaging because they had exotics tied behind them. I really mean Esoterickk, because this was the only one that dropped from a bounty, while Queenbreaker's bow, once again, was just a world drop. But at least I can give some credit for some fan service for making Lord of Wolves a weapon bounty again. The Spider bounties had some good and bad news to them though. The good news is that these bounties aren't complicated to complete. The bad news is actually a few pieces of bad news. First, in the release of Forsaken, the difficulty of the weekly bounty was very high, leading to players not even being able to attempt to get this gun for a while. Number two, you needed to farm ghost fragments on the Tangled Shore to trade to Spider for the bounties, which was tedious, and they rarely dropped with Forsaken's release. Third, the bounties tended to be very time consuming to farm to potentially drop the Lord of Wolves. Finally, the Lord of Wolves was a random drop in the Forsaken era, so good luck even seeing this one for potentially months. Bungie ended up buffing the drop rate of this one eventually because players just weren't getting it for a while. But you know I like my exotics like I like my steaks. Rare and beefy. Lord of Wolves had no problem being either of those for Destiny 2, with the reworked perk now doubling the burst from 5 shots to 10 shots in the clip being shot at once, and the range being extended. But at release, some players still didn't find this one to be the shotgun they had hoped for.
Hey everyone, Mtashed here, and today we're going to be looking at Lord of Wolves. I'm about to kind of shit talk Lord of Wolves. I have to say it because I think that this is a bad shotgun. I do not think it has any value in any situation in PvP.
So no longer is the shotgun about adding recovery, but instead, this one was about unleashing damage. Well, that and a lot of ammo. You see, that was the other issue the Lord of Wolves had as well. Ammo always somewhat low due to the high rate of fire and low capacity. Even with extended mag on this one, it wasn't enough to really help it. So this weapon sat in the mediocre category of exotics for just a bit longer. Until... The season of the Drifter may not have been everyone's cup of tea, unless you were a lore person or a gambit person. This season didn't have much until the very end when 0 Hour released and blew the Destiny community away with its sheer quality. But we're here to talk about something I don't think a lot of Destiny players know about, when Lord of Wolves was actually the meta shotgun for raids and PvE. In the season of the Drifter, Bungie buffs shotguns across the board, and in the sandbox changes words, received a damage multiplier in PvE activities, effectively doubling their damage. So this meant not only was Lord of Wolves meta now with the double damage, but bosses began to get melted by it because as long as you got one kill, You could fire this thing really fast and infinitely because of auto reloading Well of Radiances from Luna faction boots. In this buff to shotguns, rapid fire frames lost their full auto speed too, so this one was the easy replacement to that.
3, 2, 1, shoot.
I mean, it's callous, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it's shit.
The only issue that Lord of Wolves still faced for the player base was the ammo consumption. Remember, there was no special finisher, no armor 2.0 to spec shotgun scavs, and there was no finders. It was all random what armor perks you had, so most gamers didn't really get the most out of this one unless fully spec'd out for it. Side note, this was probably one of my favorite PvE metas, and I'm hoping a shotgun meta for raids comes back at some point. I miss using Acreus and Lord of Wolves in these activities, and I want them back, man. And now that you've heard that side note, you probably know what that means for PvE Lord of Wolves. Lord of Wolves dominated the season of the Drifter for PvE. The gun that had been around for so long had now done what it had never done before. It was a part of everyone's loadout for raids. Players loved this a lot outside of the ammo issues, but Bungie wasn't really liking this meta for raids for whatever reason. Maybe shotguns just had their time, and it was time for Mountaintop, a future video one day. Yeah, the Lord of Wolves got taken off the throne of PvE in the season of the Opulence, with Bungie not only hurting it there, but absolutely massacring my boy. Lord of Wolves received a massive increase in damage with the full benefits of the shotgun changes in the season of the Drifter. This made it a lot more popular, but we got a significant amount of feedback that Release the Wolves activating on every kill made it difficult to control the weapon's ammo consumption. As a result, we're allowing you to swap between these two states to control the output, while also reducing its output slightly. PvE damage reduced by 20%. Release the Wolves perk has now been reworked. It no longer triggers automatically on kills. This effect is now triggered by holding reload, similar to the fundamentals on Hardlight and Borealis. PvE damage and range bonuses on this effect have been removed and replaced with the universal damage bonus instead. This single change to the Release the Wolves perk, combined with the buffs shotguns had in general from the season of the Drifter, the amount of ammo scavs could give, and the range that Release the Wolves had, made for a Tarnished to become a full-on Lord again. Sorry, I'm just really excited for Elden Ring and needed to throw that line in there. This Lord may have been too powerful though and needed to be dethroned. Seriously, the outcry for this weapon to be nerfed, the effectiveness of it being so dominant that if you weren't using it, you were actively throwing. The Reddit gold farming, the Bungie forum posts, Twitter complaining, view farming on YouTube. Any mention of this weapon was going to wring PTSD and attention from all gamers across the spectrum, and lends me to ask one question that I seem to always be asking. Was this even tested? Yeah, you know, it probably was, and the devs just said, F it, we're choosing violence today. This weapon was in so much demand of a nerf that Bungie set up a panel at GuardianCon of 2019 with a charity incentive to talk about it getting nerfed. That's how you get gamers to spend money for a great cause. I'll just let some more clips play because there isn't really much else to be said. Lunafaction boots for some extra range, One-Eyed Mask still dominating, another future video for One-Eyed Mask, and just pure dominance in the form of a shotgun. They turned the hero of PvE into the villain of PvP. And for that, I can never forgive you, Luke Smith. Or Jogoroth. Or whichever dev did my boy like this. One day, though, that nerf would come. You clicked this video knowing this moment was coming, but you just couldn't be more excited for it, right? Right? Well, what if I told you that even though a nerf happened, the weapon was still insanely powerful? Bungie's nerf to the Lord of Wolves was to lower its efficiency at range and lower the amount of ammo scavs could give it. Oh, also guys, Bungie gave players a cool emblem like the one we covered for Prometheus Lens. This did help, but it was still insanely powerful. However, the people came together to shun this monster's existence because it was still the best, but everyone agreed to just not use it as the era of the Lord of Wolves was coming to a close. There were still some out there that used this weapon, but most players just agreed and took a silent oath to not touch the gun again, as that would only let it rise to power again.
Pre 2.5.2, Lord of Wolves had the one-hit kill potential would release the wolves from approximately 20 meters. 20 meters! Now the kill range with something like Release the Wolves with that steep damage fall off is actually 13.5 meters. Almost 14 meters.
Well, Bungie even tried to get this one back in power for some reason by giving it a catalyst that increased the reload speed and stability of the Lord of Wolves. And there was a time that players thought the Lord of Wolves was back. But then...
Oh God. Oh, please save me with this. Oh, Jesus.
the Lord was knocked out of the meta again. But not out for the count quite yet. The Lord of Wolves, a gun that went from a peasant in Destiny 1 and early Destiny 2 Forsaken, rose to power into a hero in the Season of the Drifter, and Darth Vadered into a villain in the Season of the Opulence. A weapon dethroned, but still very much on a rise to power again with a catalyst. A weapon that had its very own emblem, like a symbol of history made. A weapon that even with a cone nerf and other shotgun nerfs, was still looming and waiting to strike its prey. A weapon that, as of recording this video in the Season of the Splicer for Destiny 2, is back in power in the Crucible. I really don't know what to say, other than this was and still is the exotic weapon that ruled and now rules Destiny. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like and a subscription, as well as checking out GMG Performance with the link below. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to view this video. Check out my live stream since I'll be there more often now after hiring a new editor, and I will see you all next time. Maybe with a Lord of Wolves in hand. Wait!
Guys, he's running.
There is no
Where is he? Is he dead?
No!
Did we kill him?
No!
I'm looking around. For the love of God, I don't see.
radar. Oh, someone asked if I was also
This one's on me. Push him. Nice.
You got punched, so you're probably gonna die.
I ain't dying for shit.
You're alive? Oh my god. Oh!